Welcome to the Data Mesh Learning Communities panel on implementing data mesh at PayPal. So first, before we get started, let me just set the stage for today's context. So clearly, I mean, we're all here for a reason. We know that data is the fuel of the modern enterprise. And in financial services, and in particular in PayPal, data truly does power the business. It's a foundation that enables better business decisions, improves operations, creates innovations, and delivers outstanding customer outcomes. But now, as we all know, data mesh is a modern approach that helps us drive these outcomes more effectively and efficiently. It advocates for kind of several principles. They're well documented, but I'll go through them very high level because I'm sure we're going to talk about these during the discussion. But first off, there's domain ownership, where data has clear boundaries and empowered, with empowered and knowledgeable data product owners. Second, data is treated as a product, making it discoverable, understandable, trustworthy, and interoperable. Third, data is self-serve, where platforms are available to make the data easy to find, consume, share, and all that with minimal manual intervention. Last but not least, there's federated governance that lets data product owners have the local autonomy that they need to deliver the services that they desire. Now, obviously, as I mentioned, as a data mesh community, we probably know all these things very well, so I'm not going to be talking about those. But what will we be talking about today? Today, we'll be focused on data mesh implementation details. We will be talking about how PayPal has implemented their data mesh, what techniques worked, and perhaps even what didn't, I suppose. And along the way, our hope is that you, as a data mesh practitioner, you gain some insights to help you better implement your organization's data products and data mesh. Now, today we have several members of the PayPal data mesh team with us, and they're going to share their insights based on real-world experiences. So if I could ask each of you to introduce yourself and tell me a little bit about what you do for a living, I suppose. So, Lavina, why don't we start with you?
Hi, my name is Lavina. And it's been almost an year for me to be associated with PayPal and working on data mesh project, their implementation as an architect, solution architect. And there are a lot of challenges, learnings, and adventures, I would say, in doing so. But it was fun, and I'm looking forward to share my experience in terms of different aspects of building it from my perspective in PayPal to everyone around here.
Excellent. Thank you, Lavina. Krithika, tell us about yourself.
Hi, everyone. This is Krithika. I've been working as a software engineer as part of Clairvoyant, but I've been working with PayPal since the past few years in some of their projects. And since the past 1.5 years, I've been working with Lavina and JG for building a data mesh platform in PayPal. As Lavina said, a lot of learnings, a lot of experiences, and it's been a fun journey. And I, including all of us, we're looking forward to share our experiences with all of you.
Excellent. Last but not least, we have Jean-Georges Perrin, or JG as they call him. Tell us about yourself, my friend.
Yeah, so Jean-Georges or JG, depending on your level of French or your comfort level with it. You have no excuse, okay, my friend, because as Canadian, you should be completely bilingual. So even if there's data in my title, I self-identify as a software person. That's probably why I think I found my niche a little bit with the data mesh. From my accent, you probably get on my name, you probably got that I'm French. I moved to the US about a little less than 10 years ago now. I used to be an entrepreneur, and I joined PayPal about a little over a year ago now. Yeah, a little bit before Lavina. Last year at the summit of our project, I led about 5 teams, 40 people, and we designed, implemented, and we deployed data mesh. And that's been an exciting experiment, an exciting project, and we are pretty proud of all of that. So. On the side, I'm a lifetime IBM champion, and I love knowledge sharing. I wrote a few books, including this one. This is a Chinese translation of data mesh for all ages. And I'm also a speaker at many conferences. So Back to
Fantastic.
you.
Thank you very much, Lavina, Krithika, Jean-Georges. On an administrative note, I should say that each of the panel members here are talking on their own behalf and not for their employers or clients. As for me, my name is Eric Broda. I'm the president of Broda Group Software. It's a boutique consulting company focused on accelerating financial firms' enterprise data mesh journey. And I have the wonderful opportunity of being the panel host and asking the great questions of this fantastic panel. So with that in mind, why don't we get started? And I'll start with you, Krithika, perhaps. Tell us a little bit about PayPal, and more importantly, obviously focus on the data. How important is data analytics to PayPal?
PayPal is a data-driven company, and in fact, moving towards becoming a super data-driven company. And on a daily basis, some of the products, I mean, everyone knows PayPal as a product, but there's so many other business units as well, like Venmo, Zoom, Honey, and so many more, Braintree, all working, all contributing or creating, I wouldn't say the numbers, but then large volumes of data on a daily basis. So it's very important that we work with the data, we manage our data, and keep our data secure.
Awesome. Now, Lavina, perhaps you can tell us a little bit, what does the PayPal analytics landscape look like? Like what platforms are used? How much data do you actually have in your environment, at least in the environment that you're working in? Oh, you're on mute, Lavina.
On daily basis, there are almost like billions of transactions. And the visualization usually happens on Looker, Quick, and Tableau. And in general, the analytics is done on Notebook. And as we mentioned that there are applications which are tracking this transaction from different directions. So that divides the data in the same data or the collective data from different sources into different domains. So to give you an estimate number of how much data is being rolling on daily basis, it's like, just imagine how much one transaction creates a data point and how many points, how much like terabytes of data will be collected on the basis of billions of transactions. So it's a lot to handle. And that's created a need of something that automates the data-driven approach for analyzing it, making it much more visualization, like making it much more visual to the stakeholders at a domain level, which is more useful. So yeah.
Perfect. Awesome. Now we're going to start and wind things back up a bit. For perhaps Jean-Georges, you've been there the longest. Tell us, about PayPal's data mesh journey. Where did it actually start?
I thought our agreement was you would make Lavina and Krithika talk and not me. Okay, so now I've got to talk as well. Okay, so I've got to think of that again. No, but so data, as they both said, and as anybody can guess, data is really critical to our business, and we were already pretty much state of the art when I joined, but the landscape and the requirements around data is constantly evolving, right? I think there's more regulations, there's more compliance requirements, there is more trackability of the data, traceability of the data, all that. So it's not that we were in a bad position and we needed to go to a good position. It was we were in a good position and we needed to be prepared for the future, okay, and anticipate for that. So the idea was not, and when I joined PayPal, it was not to say, hey, let's build a data mesh, okay? I didn't say, hey, let's do that, and please give me billions of dollars to build it. So it was more like like a traditional IT or data project, okay? We analyzed what was a need, and we said, okay, well, we actually add self-service. Okay, so we didn't need to build self-service, but we needed to keep self-service. We needed to increase our governance and build tighter relationship with our enterprise data governance team. We needed to we need to think a little bit differently about data, right? Like a lot of companies, we were thinking about, hey, the critical part is a pipeline, and everything is rolling around the pipeline. So let's think a little bit differently that part, and maybe thinking about data as a product. Okay, and then we also needed to limit the scope of the data projects that were, and we were part of a business unit. Okay, so we were pretty horizontal, but we didn't care about all the different verticals of the data. So when you're thinking about all these things, okay, it just relates to the 4 principles that Zhamak put as the data mesh. Okay, but we found out, I wouldn't say it's the hard way, but we found out based on what we were doing that, hey, this thing we're building was very, very close to a data mesh. But we started the project back in January. I joined in December. In January, we were all ready to start and produce lines of code. But it's only mid-March that we realized that, hey, this is a data mesh. We're building a data mesh. Okay, so. And the analogy I like to keep is a bit like the human and the monkey. Okay, so we've got 2% DNA difference or something like that, and so we were at that time, we were probably the monkey, and we saw the human and say, okay, well, maybe you should do the extra 2% to become a human. With so that's kind of what we did, and we realized that mid-March, and since then it's actually, it's, oh right, you switch middle of the project. It's actually made it easier for us because Zhamak already published so much that it was kind of easy. You had a roadmap by reading a book if you understand a book. But so yeah,
Perfect.
That's how it started.
Perfect. So the dates you mentioned, that was so you've been at it now for a year and a bit. The March and such was last year. So there's quite a bit of experience here. So let's Lavina, perhaps let's go to you now next. Data mesh at its simplest is really about an ecosystem of data products. But what components are in PayPal's data mesh ecosystem? Is there a data fabric? Are there key platforms? Tell me kind of what the architecture looks like.
So when it comes to the platform, we try to keep everything as a microservice so that the connection between one service to the other in order to create a quantum, which Zhamak mentioned had different utilities to fulfill, like dictionary, observability, etc., to fulfill. So we curated a strategy where we take the requirement, basically serve the person who is going to define the data product, and see the end result. Like in a general ETL pipeline, you see the output and the input. We also did the same things and curated different components that would cater us at a different level, be it at a mesh experience level or a data product experience level, or at an infrastructure, like a PayPal infrastructure, like correlates with PayPal infrastructure level. So we made out those, we designed those components, went for the feedback from the users, we rolled out, we again got the feedback, and that's how the components were. Some essential components are like, for example, you get the notifications and you get the checks on the data points, etc. So these are some very basic things that we defined at different levels of a quantum and mesh.
Okay. Now, I know at PayPal, I think it's called Data Quantum, which is the equivalent of a data product, if I'm not mistaken. But let me just ask a follow-up question. You mentioned you use microservices extensively. Is there a microservice for every data product? And if so, what would that microservice be responsible for? Or tell me about the microservice architecture and how it's aligned to your data products and data mesh.
So the concept is not to repeat or do a redundant work, like create microservice for each data product, rather create components of microservices that can be utilized by different by like all the data products. So that's what the approach was. Like we have pipelines that are curated of different microservices, so that it's a decentralized approach for each and every aspects that we need to touch when it comes to data and data product, that we laid out in different components. Each component is each component we defined a microservice, and that microservice is that entire orchestra of microservice is triggered when a requirement of a data product comes in from the input to the output. And then we also have a loop, feedback loop, that again is a microservice.
Fantastic. I love the architecture. But Krithika, let me ask you a question. So we've talked about data products and data quanta. How does PayPal define a data quanta or a data product? What is the definition that rings true to PayPal?
So at a very basic level, data quantum is based on a domain, a business unit that we are trying to solve a problem for. It contains a collection of data sets and solving a business problem for. So, so that is with respect to the data. From a platform perspective, it encompasses the different planes, the observability, the discovery plane, and the control plane and interoperable data model, as I mentioned before. At a very basic level, these are the four different components, and this is how we come up with the entire data product.
Okay. Now, how many, if you don't mind me asking in general terms, how many data products or data quanta has PayPal been able to implement so far?
We began with 6 data products. Now we are expanding to about 40, and a lot more are being added, are scheduled to be added in this year.
Wow. So it's safe to say that data mesh, the benefits of data mesh are loud and clear at PayPal, and it's taking PayPal by storm in effect. So that's fantastic. That's fantastic news. Lavina, let me ask you the next question. So we've got 6 to start, 6 data products or data quantas, and we have 40 coming up very, very soon. How does PayPal go about choosing their data products?
So choosing, it's basically done more of a work by data product, which is another team which takes care of it, like what is the priority. We build platform, so they utilize the platform. The prioritization is done by another team, which is more of a business team. So yeah,
okay,
it's not on us. We just cater them the service that, okay, this is how you do it.
Okay, perfect. So having chosen your data products, maybe Krithika, give me an overview of how they are delivered. Like, what does a data quanta or data product life cycle actually look like?
So it all starts with creation of a data contract. I think everyone is aware. I mean, a bit of an information as to what a data contract is it contains all the information that drives the data product. So it could be information about all the source tables, the target tables, the schema, documentation, the SLAs, the data quality rules, who the ownership lies with, and how the usage policies. So the data contract acts as the single source of truth that drives a data quantum. So we begin there, and then the data engineering teams, as I said, as a quantum or a product encompasses the different data sets. They work on building out the transformation logic, and we add these several different layers of observability, control, and the discovery planes to it. So in a nutshell, it starts off with data contract, building that contract between the different teams involved, and interaction of the transformation logic with the platform, providing these different planes. So all of this together is implemented as a data product.
Now, just a follow-up question: who actually builds the data product? Where do the software engineers, if you will, or data engineers actually reside? Are they in Jean-Georges or your team or Lavina's team, or where do they sit? Are they in a separate team?
So the platform engineers are the software engineers building the platform, providing the integration between all of these planes. And whereas the data engineers are the ones that are actually working on the business logic and the transformation logic.
Okay,
So
perfect.
that's another team
Go ahead,
actually.
Lavina.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Lavina.
that's another team that gets the business business priorities from the different domain owners, who has to see like different aspects of data from different perspective, and then they curate the data products. And as I mentioned that as per the life cycle, the process that we have curated out, it's quite unique and interesting, and that's the reason it's patented.
It's
So
patented?
Yeah.
it's the life cycle, that was the entire hard work around the microservice, the integration, the triggers and notification, everything. So that's the reason it's patented.
Wow, congratulations, Jean-Georges. You have not told me about that. I think that's a marvelous milestone. I'm definitely going to have to look that one up.
So just to add to that, we've got this policy about patents and open source, and PayPal is very open about both things. And I think that patents are actually an help to innovation, because it guarantees the investment, but open source is also a major help to innovation. And I'm at liberty to announce that we are going to open source our data contract templates coming very soon on a GitHub near you. Okay, so we hope that some people will take it and own it and modify it and fork it and bring feedback, so we can have some kind of a, hopefully almost an industry standard around data contracts.
Well, folks, for the audience, we just heard a potential news release being created.
CNN is on it. Okay, so yeah.
Well, this is big news, because PayPal is a luminary in the industry, and when they move, a lot of people follow. So that's a huge achievement, and I, for one, am absolutely positively looking forward to how you've implemented that data contract. Now let me go to Lavina. The tech stack for a typical data product. There's kind of two schools of thought on this. One is the data product owner is the king of the castle, if you will, and they are able to select a tech stack that works for them, which may be different than the enterprise. There's some downsides to that, but there's also the other upsides also. On the other side of the continuum, we have enterprise, standard products, and kind of an edict that says you're going to use the enterprise standard approach or tech stack. What does a typical data product or data quanta stack look like, and how much flexibility is there in that architecture?
So given that we are majorly, like PayPal majorly have used in PayPal GCP tech stack. And as you mentioned that the team of data engineers is more inclined towards a different tech stack. And then there's this enterprise platform that is trying to secure the safe place with respect to security. I think in this matter, we had been a little lucky, because there was a quite good sync between different type of users. So one is user, basically who are data engineers, who are curating the products using the business requirement, creating data contracts. And then there are people who is going to utilize that on a visual basis using Tableau, Looker, and anything. So we integrated. So in general, like when we were our product defining strategy with respect to architecture and services was based on whom are we going to help. So every quarter, we used to decide, okay, this time we are going to help a bunch of engineers who are going to create data contracts. How are we going to help it? Do we give them a platform where they are able to create the data platform, or do we help them to, create the entire pipeline altogether. So every quarter we had a role, and after consulting with them, we came with the tech stack, and also basically in accordance to the PayPal strategy as well. But things had been quite a sync. It was a little bit challenging to get things in order with respect to everyone, but eventually it happened. And as I mentioned, that we also have an end user who's going to use that. You can say business analyst. They also integrated the end product with different tools. Basically, just like you integrate your, Redshift database to a Tableau or Looker. So the same strategy was being applied to the end product.
Okay.
So
Now
in
you
general,
mentioned.
it was basically.
Yeah,
Okay.
in addition to what Lavina said, we actually integrated with a lot of enterprise-based frameworks as well. And the framework, finally, the platform that we developed is actually platform agnostic. Although we have used GCP-based tools, but then the code base can easily be changed to any other cloud-based service or on-prem data platform.
So it's very interesting you mentioned that. So my experience in building data mesh, one of the hardest challenges is reconciling data product owner flexibility and the ability for them to do what they need to optimize for speed and agility versus meeting the needs of the enterprise, which is trying to have some measure of enforcement and governance around consistency and standardization. Now I'll go, Krithika, perhaps your perspective. Lavina mentioned there is some, there's always a balancing act in trying to do that. Tell me how you did that balancing act. What worked and what didn't work? How did you convince folks of the approach and perhaps the contracts or the standardization when perhaps they were doing something different or had a different vision? How did you reconcile that?
It's been definitely a challenge. It hasn't been, yeah. Initially, when we began, data mesh was a very new terminology and the kind of architecture, even for PayPal, because most of the data platforms are streaming or batch. They're more batch driven. Whereas when we came to implementing data mesh, it was more stateless architecture using microservices, which was kind of very different from what most data engineers or big data engineers or cloud engineers have implemented so far. So initially it was challenging, but the approach that we took, as Lavina mentioned, every PI, every quarter, we focused on certain problems to solve for our users. For example, if we were catering to solving problems for a data scientist, we would discuss the strategy and the approach, discuss their problems, and come up with solutions with respect to data mesh and get their feedback. So we had constant UAT sort of a thing in evolving how the platform worked. So the kind of strategy that we took was more product thinking, wherein we cater to what our users require, be it data engineers or be it data scientists or data analysts. So, and how we kind of got them involved is at every step, we used to discuss their needs, their issues, and how we would solve the problems using data mesh. And it required a change in thinking and strategy, definitely. But over a period of time, with a lot of training and user manuals, the engineers or the analysts they got onboarded to the idea. And it's been a year journey. It didn't happen overnight, definitely.
Okay. Now, Lavina, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so to add, like you do just a simple example. You said, how did two words come together, right? So very classic example is that I saw that some people were very UI oriented here. And some people like data engineers, they are very Python, like they have a very Pythonic way of doing stuff. And we catered everything using the same microservices, stateless architecture, we were able to cater everyone. I mean, it's, I think I don't want to brag it, but we're able to make majority happy because we were able to come up with the products that were fulfilling everyone's requirement.
So ultimately what you had was, if I were to characterize it simplistically, you came up with a very flexible set of tools that solve very practical problems, and that's how you actually got your end users and other engineers, et cetera, on board. Fantastic. By the way, I think that's been my experience, and I think that's the actual only way to do this. The older style, characterize it older style, where there's an enterprise standard and thou shalt use it. I don't think that, at least in the data mesh world, doesn't work. And I think even in the traditional IT world, it is working less and less and less. But I want to continue just a little bit on the life cycle side. So perhaps Lavina, I'll start with you. Describe the DevSecops capability, or how specifically the continuous integration, continuous deployment or delivery, where you get a data product from ideation, but more specifically from a development, something that's kind of code, and how do you move it through test and then actually move it into production? To walk me through the CI/CD or the DevSecops process that you've adopted for data mesh and data products at PayPal.
Okay, so on a very simplistic way, the entire architecture that we built across the entire orchestra that was built at different levels of data mesh, be it infrastructure level or mesh experience or data product level, basically, were developed at dev as well as prod level, like in different environments. And once the tests were getting passed at the dev environment, we were moving on to the prod. So this was the strategy. Like, we had our entire setup hosted not just on one place, but different places, so that we can do a very thorough health check. Because as JG said, that we are planning to make our data products basically public, so that we don't want any mess ups to happen at that level, at public level. And when it comes to the DevOps and SecOps, there is some limitations, PayPal limitations, due to which I cannot tell you how the internal security passes were taken care. But at a general level, the setup that was built, as I mentioned to you, it was decentralized, and that's one of the reason we were able to adapt to the internal orchestra that we have, or the internal security setup, governance setup, and the compliance that we have for data and enterprise data platform within PayPal. We were able to set with them. If it would have been a centralized structure, which usually is practiced in data centers, I think it would have been very difficult. So in order to,
Sorry, go ahead.
No, Krithika, go ahead.
Yeah, and to add on, we integrated with the existing tools that are of PayPal. We didn't really have to build any of the custom CI/CD strategy for our use for our platform. So it made things simple. That's everything was governed and according to the standards of PayPal. Okay.
Now I'm going to switch topics a little bit, but you mentioned the word governance, and I would say all too often, maybe far too often, governance is used as a bad word. I would say, in some respects, perhaps fairly, because in the old world, it was, you build something, I will look at it and I'll tell you if it meets the standards, and inevitably it doesn't. And then you have to retrofit stuff. So the old approach, and I'm dramatically simplifying, mind you, but the old approach, it wasn't the right approach for data mesh. And in fact, data mesh suggests a federated governance approach. In other words, every data product perhaps may have a unique, hopefully standardized, but somewhat bespoke, perhaps, governance approach. So tell me about how we'll start with you, Krithika. How do you govern the data products? How do you know that they're doing the right thing? How do you know that they're secure? How do you know that the data quality is appropriate? Walk me through how PayPal actually does data product or data quanta governance.
So for data governance specifically, we collaborated with our enterprise data governance team, and they have become our best friends. So through the entire journey, we became good friends with many different teams, but data governance, more specifically data governance. So we took in their standards and the compliance and governance rules, and we set those in as part of our platform and providing them, securing the data products. And as I mentioned before, a lot of most of the governance techniques or policies and the ownership lies with, it comes through the data contract. The usage policies, the SLA standards, the data quality checks, all of these are approved, or it is given to the product owners, whoever is owning the data product, and it is curated by them, and based on their approval is how we come up with the creation of a data product. So in a nutshell, it is driven by the data contracts, but in close collaboration with the standards set by our enterprise data governance team.
Well, that's a great news story. Lavina, let me ask you, I'm going to have a follow-up question related to governance. So one of my experience anyway is if you can make data governance real time, and if you can automate it, that's kind of the key to success. And it sounds like that is kind of the spirit of what happened at PayPal. But tell me, how did you automate or create real time governance, and to what degree did you get there at PayPal?
So just to add to something on governance basis, what Krithika mentioned, that we had a very close and friendly collaboration with enterprise governance team. You will be surprised to know that we were able to use their services also in our architecture. So it's not just the data contract that was, getting any manual feedbacks from them, or they were coming and tweaking it. It was all automated because we were able to use their rule setup and everything what they have for governance prospect, like how the data should look like, etc., etc. Were able to do that, and they were providing the health check. Like they already had established this strategy for checking the health of the data from the different sources in different aspects, and we were able to utilize that result as well. So that saved us a lot of computation, because we were already getting a curated report card from them, and we were using that report card because we know that's optimal, and they have already established a setup for that real-time system. So we just integrated that. Now, how we created a real-time aspect was, most of the services, as we mentioned, are they were we created, as we mentioned, that we created stateless and microservices, and that entire service was being utilized by different products at different time.
Okay.
So it's not we didn't do any batch processing. It was more of a triggered based system.
Yeah, in addition, what's good is usually for most of the data use cases, a lot of them were batch, and just to onboard all of these rules or all the data quality checks and having them scheduled were through, again, the batch process, and some of them, a lot of it was manual too. So our approach, we automated the end-to-end data quality, observability, governance aspects, including the scheduling strategy. And I think that reduces, we tried helping our data engineers reduce their time by about 20 to 30%.
Fantastic. You mentioned the word observability. So Krithika, I'm just going to ask a follow-up question in that regard. How does PayPal monitor their data mesh or their data products? And how did you implement observability? And what does observability actually mean to PayPal? Maybe start there.
Yeah, observability is in the way we have implemented, or what it means is we track and look at how consistent and reliable the data is. If it matches the requirements, if it matches basically the quality of data, is it meeting the standards? So can we trust this data for our use cases? Can any user, is it according to the enterprise standards? And can we use these data sets for our business use cases? So how we implemented observability is we have many different checks. Some of them are data quality checks, some of them are system level checks, some of them are at control level. We have many different checks. As Lavina mentioned, it's at the mesh level, data product level, and as well as at the infrastructure level. So some of these tools were custom built by our team, and some of these were already as part of the PayPal ecosystem. All we had to do was integrate with them. So we combined all of this, and what was interesting is we came up with a statistical measure, a ratings score, just like how we have for Amazon or any of these services, to tell how reliable and consistent the data is. All the users have to see is just look at the ratings, and they will eventually they'll easily get to know if it is meeting the standards. Perfect. Or the reliability levels.
Perfect. Now I'm just going to pause here for the audience. We would love to have some of your questions. You are able to submit your questions, and they will arrive to us. So we'll try and spend some time near the end of the session to answer questions. I haven't received any yet, but I'm sure there will be some. So just as a quick administrative note. Now I'm going to continue, Lavina, on the observability side, or more specifically, the data quality side. What I've seen in the past, what I've done in the past is in any data pipeline, what we use is products like Great Expectations, for example. And we use some of the fantastic capability in that tool to actually understand the profile of the data, and you can obviously ascertain quality metrics for that. That's how I've seen it done done it in the past. Is that a similar approach to what you are using at PayPal, or different tools, or does that resonate?
So some, as Krithika mentioned, some of them were already existing by the our governance team or the platform. We simply integrated them, those health checkups from the database directly. For example, when you combine, as Krithika mentioned previously, data contract can be a single data set, a source, or can be a multiple data source. Now, getting a health checkup sort of something, or data quality health checkup sort of on a combined product, was something that we curated. And we had different statistics that were again approved by the governance team, because they already have created a standard setup. And of course, we also integrated with the product owners and the end users. Like when you check like how a data analyst looks at the data, that is the source A, the data is coming from the source A, data is coming from the source B, and like you have 50 students in a class, you are getting the report card of each and every student. And then when you look at the report card at a school level, you look for a particular class. So that was the approach that was given. A small section which was seen at a particular data set, the same approach was applied at a bigger combined domain level. So there was not much difference in that approach.
Yeah. In addition, PayPal already has existing data quality frameworks very similar to Great Expectations. And Yeah, we looked at both and we felt because this is enterprise accepted in the organization, we went with the existing frameworks that PayPal already has.
Okay,
And
perfect.
also to further add, like, whether we are doing it right or not. So it's not just the user of that particular domain who has the access to that health. It is also like all the other users, it's not the owner who has the, access to the entire health or the data quality checks. It's all the users who can not just interact with the different data products, but they can interact with different user history of different users who are using a particular data product.
Okay, perfect. Now, I'm just gonna have one more question then. There's a variety of questions that I have now from the audience. So I'm just gonna ask one more question we'll start with Krithika. So clearly you've been at the data mesh journey for a while. Any lessons learned or advice? What worked and perhaps what didn't work? And then I'll ask the same to Lavina, and then we'll go to some audience questions.
So some of the lessons that we learned is when there is a change, it doesn't happen. Change is not accepted overnight. It requires a lot of back and forth with the users and at the same time with the enterprise teams. So starting this conversation early off and bringing that awareness as to why this change could be useful to the organization as small to a team as well. And getting that acceptance and the faith and confidence becomes a very crucial thing. If you do not have the approval from your users or the enterprise teams, it is going to become a big hurdle to pass. So this is something we tried bringing early on, and it's still in progress. That's one of the lessons that we learned as part of our journey.
Well, Lavina, what do you think? Any words of advice, lessons learned?
Yeah, as you have the forward loop, like in a general, neural network or AI or something, you have this forward propagation and backward propagation. What I realized that this forward propagation is like when you design the product and etc. That's a forward propagation, and you kind of get the feedbacks of everyone around for whom particularly you are getting the product ready for. But once the product is ready, people think that their job is done, but no, you have to have that back propagation that makes the neural network very intelligent. So we also use that strategy, and that helped us to curate a lot of additional products, surrounding data mesh that are going to help our users at different levels, be it a data engineer who is creating a data contract, or a data visualization engineer who's visualizing the data. So we just don't have a data mesh around. We also have tiny products who are helping in creating a better experience of the entire data mesh era that we are living in.
Perfect. Well, I'll tell you what, there's a variety of questions. So I'm gonna kind of summarize one or two. First one here is from Jerome Rinzima. And I think there's others that are related to this, but how do users interact with the data mesh? Krithika, why don't we start with you?
Yeah, as Lavina mentioned, we built multiple tools or user experience tools to our users. Some of them are more into business analysis and visualization. So we have a UI created for them for discovery and basic analysis. We all to cater to our data scientists or data analysts who predominantly use notebooks. We have libraries created for the notebooks, and also for visualization engineers or BI engineers, we have integrations with Tableau, Looker, these visualization tools. So we have tools catering to each of our end users. It is not one deliverable to our users. It's multiple tools to customize to different users.
Okay. Lavina, I'll ask you the next question from Martin Harrison. What do you use to create a catalog for your community? I presume a data product catalog. How does PayPal manage that? Obviously, you have 6 of them now, going to 40, perhaps hundreds in the future. Do you use a catalog? How do you catalog the data products?
So cataloging, and when it comes to the creation of the data product, is basically very business driven. So we have the different business teams who prioritize the data checking and all the visualization at a domain level. They come to us with a requirement, and a data engineer from a business team helps them to curate outline process that we have created for creating a data product. Now, when the data product is created using a single data set or a different data set for numerous data types, the entire pipelines create an end product. Okay, that end product again is cataloged using the same tools which Krithika mentioned here. Especially the UI that we have created, it's marvelous. Like, it helps you in listing all the catalogs, end product of the catalogs. So at the end, we have a control of visualization, but the front end request is mostly business oriented.
Okay. Now, a related question. This one's from Rahul Das. It may be related to the catalog, perhaps. How do you manage to make data products or data quanta discoverable? Krithika, we'll start with you.
Yeah, so we have our UI has a powerful search functionality. It is very Google-like, very user-friendly, wherein you can use Boolean operators or the wildcards to be able to search through the data. So, in addition to this, we are working with our data cataloging team to either integrate in the existing frameworks that we have, or make those frameworks by having learned the lessons from here and evolving those systems. We are figuring that strategy out right now, but our data cataloging and our discovery is based on search engine, just like Google.
Okay. Now, oh, sorry, Lavina, go ahead.
Simply, you just have to write your keywords, and you'll get out all the products related to that keyword, and you can browse through it.
Okay. Now there's a question from Hugo around what tools you use for your transformation or your pipeline. So is DBT, for example, the go-to product, or do you have other tools? Are they custom built? Lavina, we'll start with
scripts.
Perl scripts. Old school. Jean-Georges is old school.
Hey, come on, man.
Yeah.
I mean, this is reliable.
Lavina, do you agree with Jean-Georges?
Yeah, it's basically very old school, and as we have to abide to the enterprise level, so we have to use a little bit old school.
Really? Okay.
No, I'm just, I think we're all kidding, but our GCP, all the technologies, PubSub, BigQuery, Spark, all the big data technologies.
Everything is there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Everything is there. So
I said everything I've heard is PayPal is very, very advanced, and you almost had me there. I could not figure out why you would use Perl for the life of me, but I wasn't going to argue with you on this forum and put you on the spot. But you had me fooled. One of the questions, it's related to pipelines, and I'm kind of summarizing or reading between the lines. There's a school of thought that says I have data products and there's a pipeline that joins the two. And then there's another school of thought that says there are no pipelines external from data products. They're all inside a data product. Which school of thought has PayPal implemented? Lavina, we'll start with you.
I think it's very data product oriented in here, and even at the mesh level, they're basically at a data product level of a data mesh. It's very it's very product oriented. It's not like a pipeline. The same pipeline can cater everything. So it is very product oriented.
Okay.
It's within the data product.
So it's within. Now that's a very different school of thought relative to what's out in the industry. So let me kind of build on that. In the industry, there's a lot of discussion around DBT, not so much around data products. Okay, and even DBT. I think if I read the most recent announcement, I think it's coming out in late April or very soon or May. They are moving towards having explicit data contracts and even the notion of a data mesh. But the old school says I got data products, but I also have a central group that manages my data pipelines or DBT. And I would argue that while that can get the job done, it does reinforce the whole centralization approach, which has its own set of problems, not necessarily insurmountable, but you've chosen to do the opposite. So Lavina, walk me through how you perhaps got the team to go from I'm going to have centralized pipelines to this new data mesh constructing. We're going to wrap the pipelines inside the data product. How did you evolve the thinking towards that?
So it was not one night thing, basically to get them have that thinking to migrate from a centralized to decentralized approach. But when we showed them the time that is being consumed when you create a domain aspect of a product, combining 3 or 4 different data products together to create a curated report for a end user, which is usually a management person who has to take decisions based on that data point. We showed them the amount of time that they are taking, when a centralized team is taking care of everything rather than a data product, a single data product running pipeline. And combining those, like you have different pipes from which the water is flowing, and you have a nozzle which combines them together. So we had that approach. So it was like when we are creating the data products, like meshing the conta, I would rather say, like, you have different conta and they're interacting with each other. You have water flowing from 2 pipes, but when they combine together, the force, the power, and the entire statistics changes, right? So we showed them that how it is changes and how they are spending so much time, managing those changes, and how the decentralized approach is going to save their time by 30 to 40%.
Outstanding.
Yeah, in addition, we again use the same principles of ownership. The enterprise data sets they're owned by the respective teams, and we were trying to eliminate the data lake or centralized data layer of bringing data from different sources into one location. So
Perfect.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of redundancy also. Like, we saw that different data products were being consumed by different teams in different manner. Why can't they just use the same product in a different way? They just have to submit or create a data product that, utilizes the same aspect of data.
Perfect.
So that's a lot of time and computation and money. Of course, the computation and the storage that is needed at the end to keep a domain or to keep the same data product on a simple Redshift Redshift cluster. It's just, the prices are just bombastic.
And on that note, we are rapidly running out of time, so I'm just going to close here very quickly. First off, obviously, thank you, Lavina, Krithika, and Jean-Georges. What has been absolutely clear to me here is, Jean-Georges, while you're the leader of the team, you have some outstanding engineers and architects who I would characterize have built everything that I can see. Your team is the epitome of the best practices implemented within data mesh. And I think you folks are a well-deserved leader in the data mesh field. So congratulations for that. Real quickly here, if you want to hear more from Krithika, Lavina and Jean-Georges, in 2 weeks' time, we're going to have another meetup on becoming a data mesh engineer. So Krithika, Lavina, perhaps less so Jean-Georges, but they're going to tell you how they became these outstanding data mesh engineers. So that's in 2 weeks' time on, 4 weeks' time, May 25th. My apologies. So we welcome you back to that. So now we're at the close. So I just want to say once again, thank you very much to our eminent data mesh practitioners. And as always, I'll give Jean-Georges the last word. Anything that you want to say in closing? You should be very proud of your team here, my friend.
I am super proud of my team. They did an amazing work. I look forward to more work and more deliverable with them. It's been an incredible journey. It's been a great learning experience, and it's behind the scene. You know, I had people in Ireland, the US, all over the US, India, and China. So the human aspect of that combined with the richness of culture, and of course a few, you put a French in the middle of that. It's a little bit like you put an elephant in the middle of a porcelain store. Okay, so I did some gaffes here and there, cultural gaffes, but fortunately, everybody's still there, and we had a really good time and a great moment all together. Thank you, Eric. I know we have other projects. We will share with that as we go. Thank you for the podcast. Thank you for that. Thank you for inviting my team. They're great. I told you they were great. So yeah.
They are. And on that note, to the audience, thank you very much for your time and participation. I'm very hopeful that you've learned a little bit, and hopefully enough that you will be able to accelerate your organization's data mesh journey. So with that in mind, I'm going to close off and look forward to having further meetups in the future. Bye now.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
You.